weather meteorologist Kelly Rowland on Erie's home for breaking news and informative talk, talkerie.com.
Erie! It's Monday, November 11th. Welcome back for another Flagship City Sports Talk brought to you by Quick Fill. My name is Nick Arbin. I am so excited to be with you today. Unfortunately, Paul Adamczak was not excited to be with you today. He is out.
Slacker.
I don't know what he's doing, but when he doesn't tell us, it makes me feel like it's something nefarious. That's a fun word. I don't know where that came from. That came from like the back end of my brain.
SAT word.
Yeah, there we go. Sometimes that doctorate pays off. But in the big chair to keep us on the rails, we still have the great and powerful Rich Smith. Rich, how's it going, man?
Not too bad. Not too bad. I got to take in the Otters game on Saturday night. That was a great game.
Yeah, and you got to go as a fan, too,
Yes,
which is
I
sometimes
did.
it's less work that way.
It is. Definitely.
And taking Paul's place in the studio today, we have Jonathan Williams from the Gem City Sports Network. Jonathan, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Glad to be here.
Good. And joining us virtually, the mainstay of the show, Isaac Petcash. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, you guys are too kind. That's not true. I appreciate it though. I'm great. It's gonna be a good week. I got a good feeling.
Listen, one of us has to be, the journalist on the show. So that's what you bring. We just pretend you're the talent, buddy.
I'm just the guy that handles all the bills and paperwork. That's all.
And we thank you for it.
Yes.
But today's a special day, November 11th, because it's my birthday. Yeah, thank you. I know. I appreciate all the gifts everybody brought me this morning. You can send those to the studio down here at State Street. I will.
So
be
you
here.
mean you didn't put a happy birthday drop in the sound bar here?
Well, I didn't. I felt like it was a little
Self-serving?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to be that guy.
Missed opportunity there,
Yeah,
man.
that's
I think
okay.
he's dropping the birthday thing, so I have to run my butt down to Ye Old Sweet Shop on the break. Bring him a
Listen, if
cupcake or
anybody wants to
something.
stop at the Ye Old Sweet Shop and bring us some cookies, I wouldn't say no. No, but I mean, yes, it's my birthday, but seriously, today is an incredible day with Veterans Day. As a kid, it was something that I always got off for school, so I just thought it was cool. Like I got to be off on my birthday every year while in school. But really, the reality of Veterans Day is so important. There are so many people that risk everything for us. Even for nitwits like us to be able to talk sports for an hour, we wouldn't be able to do it without the veterans that support this country. So thank a veteran today. That's what I'm doing right now. Veterans out there listening to the show, thank you so much for everything you've done for this amazing country. And I mean, this doesn't even hold a candle to the thanks that you guys deserve. So thank you. All right. With that, let's get into some sports. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk some local high school football. We're going to talk some college football. And you know what? We're going to finish out with some more football when we talk about the pros. So let's jump into the North Shore Rewind, brought to you by Duska's Funeral Home. All right, there's really one big game that we want to hit, we want to talk about today. And listen, this is maybe not a surprise to us in the studio, but I definitely didn't think that the score was going to be this bad. We're talking General McLane 34, Meadville nothing. That ZZ Top connection was on fire on Friday as General McLane defeated Meadville 34-0 at Carmenito Field. This win marked General McLane's first District 10 championship since 2006. Isaac Zeitz threw a fourth-quarter touchdown pass to his brother Jacob to seal the game. Tage Berger also scored 3 touchdowns, including one on the opening kickoff to set the scene. Now, Isaac and Jonathan, you guys were both on the call for this game, so you guys had a unique bird's eye view of this game. Isaac, I'm coming to you first. How big of a win for this was General McLane? Obviously, it's a D10 championship, first one since 2006. Looking great, but I think there's more at stake here. How about you?
I agree. I think it's huge, and I think it's huge for a couple of reasons, and I think Jonathan will agree with me. You played the drop, Nick, but I would make the argument that Jacob and Isaac Zeitz weren't even really a huge factor in this game. They probably played their worst game of the season combined, and the touchdown that Isaac Zeitz threw was literally an Auburn miracle. It was total luck. Went off the defender's helmet and ended up in Jacob's hands. But I think coming into this game, there were 2 big questions that I personally thought needed answered from General McLane. And how would their defense play for 4 quarters after a couple of struggling outings in the last 2 games? And how could the run game, specifically Teague Berger, get going. And from the opening kick, you could see that Marshall McCormick had at a point that they wanted to pound the football right down the middle and show teams that they are capable of running the football with consistency like they were throwing the football with consistency. Berger, 3 total touchdowns. He takes the opening kick back. He's got 2 rushing touchdowns in the first half. And then from there, it was bully ball. It was something we haven't seen GM do much this year. There are more, again, we've talked about all year, right? The air raid attack, the team that likes to take the top off you, the team that throws the ball quickly and sharply down the middle of the field. That wasn't the case. They used the inside, in between the tackles, the power run, the read option at times. And it worked out great. Isaac Zeitz had a bit of an injury there in the first half with his knee. He was hobbling a bit, wobbling a bit. But Berger comes in there. He controls the game. And I think General McLane answered a lot of questions that probably were had about this team coming into the game for one that's now in the state tournament. And I thought they did a really good job offensively. Then on defense, Jonathan, and I know you talked about this a lot during the broadcast, Wayne Bradford did some things that we didn't expect him to do, but it worked out great.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly where I want to go. Is Jonathan for the defensive side of things? No, sorry, not to cut you up. Is this, with Coach Bradford? Is this the same old GM defense, or did you see something different?
I saw a lot different, and he likes to come on the broadcast and shout out Ryan Flores for some of his inspiration for some of the stuff that he does. But even on the call, there were times where they had Meadville in 3rd and long, 4th and long situations, and I'm like, okay, drop 8, rush 3, don't let anybody get behind you, DBs, play conservative.
Yeah.
Nah, Coach Bradford is 7 guys on the line of scrimmage. We're going to pressure you. We're blitzing. We're putting a guy in the quarterback's face all night long. We're not letting him breathe, because in that first matchup against Meadville, they did what I was saying. They dropped 8, rushed 3, rushed 4, and they were able to scramble around and create broken plays, and that got GM burnt a couple times in that game, and it made that game a lot closer than a lot of people thought it should have been. So he's this time around, we're not doing that. We're not doing that again. Yeah. So he's blitzing guys. He's sending the house nearly every play. It was a really aggressive game plan from Coach Bradford. But then at the same time, they're so versatile defensively, and I think that's a credit to Coach Bradford and putting in so much stuff and taking certain games to run. Okay, we're going to run this game. We're going to run this game. That way, when we get to the playoffs, we can come back and grab everything, and we can use a little bit of everything. So there were times where they did rush 3. There were times where they did have everybody off the ball. There were times where they did play a little bit more conservative. But for the most part, man, they were wreaking havoc all night defensively. They were not allowing Meadville to be comfortable throwing the ball. Yeah. They already weren't a spread offense. But anytime they went spread, it was okay, your quarterback has 2 seconds to throw the ball. It's got to be either quick game or he's got to catch and fire downfield, and it wasn't working for Meadville at all. Yeah,
I mean, we talk about rest versus rust on an off week, right? And I think rest helped that GM defense. You're talking about they forced 6 punts, 3 turnovers on downs, key defensive moments, 2 4th and 1 stops in Lancer territory, and a block punt by PJ Mitchell. I mean, this was we talked about this in the pregame show. You needed to see a defensive matchup come out of this game. And you think, 34-0. Oh, that's credit to the offense. ZZ Top was good. No, all credit in this one goes to the defense. So I think they're going to need that. Isaac, I'm going to come to you here because now McLane advances to the Class 4A playoffs. They're facing off against an undefeated Clearfield Friday night, 7 p.m. at Clearfield. What's their shot going into this game?
I think they have a good shot. And I think Clearfield's undefeated record to me is a little bit, I don't want to say a lot bit, but a bit of a mirage. Clearfield's right now on the season 11-0. They just beat USO 34-24 at home to get here as well. I think one thing you'll see from Clearfield is that they're similar in the way I think that they play their offense with General McLane. They like to attack quickly. They don't like to really waste a lot of time, and they are big up front. That's something that I know GM's going to want to key in on specifically this Friday night. I think the one player that if GM's going to want to win this game outside of number 2 and number 3 is going to be Jared Corwin. We saw him a lot on Friday night, line up in the backfield, take direct snaps like a Tyler Warren-esque, right? They'd run him down the middle in the red zone. They would get him on short screen passes. GM's going to have to use their big guys on Friday night if they're going to want to win this game. And the other problem, too, is it's a road game. And I understand that's allowed, of course, with it being a first-round playoff game. Technically, because it's not the quarter semis or the finals, you can have a home game of sorts for Clearfield, and they get that luxury being at the top of the bracket. But you're gonna have the crowd against you. You're gonna have probably a cold weather game, so throwing the football is not going to be as great. So we'll see. But I think GM's got a good shot to advance to the quarters coming up next week.
Well, and I know they're planning a bus trip to get out to Clearfield, so be on the lookout for that.
And maybe a broadcast trip. Be on the lookout for that too.
Oh, I like that. Other quick hits, other D10 wins. Sharon 40 over Titusville 7. Hickory 42-7 over Corey. We dropped the ball there, Jonathan. State College unfortunately takes down McDowell 35-7, but Cathedral Pet Boys and Girls Soccer make the PIAA semifinals, as well as the Corey's girls volleyball team. All right, that was the North Shore Rewind, brought to you by Dusty's Funeral Home. When we get back, we're talking college. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk. To you by
Dusty's Funeral Home has served local families.
wildwoodpizza.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quick Fill. Nick Artman, Jonathan Williams, Isaac Petcash, Rich Smith hanging out in the studio this morning. Football is in the air. Playoffs are kicking off in high school for the states. College football is kind of wrapping up locally. Unfortunately, we haven't had a whole lot of good to talk about this year. Teams are and seem to be in a little bit of a rebuild year. But what I want to do today is I do want to give some love. I'm going to go up to the Heights. I haven't said that for a while. We haven't talked about them that much this year. We're going to go up to the Heights and talk about Mercyhurt. So we're going to talk about some Mercyhurt. I want to talk about their kind of, okay, what are they looking like their first year in D1? And then we'll wrap up with some Gannon talk. Let's get into the Campus Corner. I need to just find places to play that drop. It's my favorite one. Like, it just gets me hype. So, Mercyhurt.
Was that you, Nick, with your drum set?
Oh, yeah, I wish. I wish. Listen, I can play guitar, I can play bass, I can do a little singing, but I tried to sit down and play guitar, and when I throw in the foot with the hands, I'm like one of those monkeys with the cymbals just clanging around. I can't do much of that. So, no credit there. Back to football. Mercyhurt defeated Lincoln University of California 66-0 at Saxon Stadium on November 9th, 2024. They set a program record for the most points scored in a single game with that 66. Previous record was a 63-14 victory over Cheney University in 2013. They improved their season record to 3-7. So let's break this down a little bit. Obviously, this was a big game for their offense. You know, Adam Urena had a great game in this one, 16 of 18, 215, and 6 touchdowns, and a long of 61. So figure that average out. And they seem to be clicking a little bit. I know, Jonathan, we're going to talk about the Lincoln side of things, so I'm going to come to you first. Either way you look at this is a big win for the team. I think they needed this a little bit. Like I said, they're 3-7. They haven't been playing well. Although if you go back and look at their schedule, they've really only lost a few games by 1 touchdown. So, they're kicking and clawing their way through, but maybe this 66-0 victory doesn't look as special as it is. How say you, Jonathan?
Yeah, to your credit, they're 3-7 right now, and they easily have an argument for 5 wins. A 1-point loss to Howard, really an argument for 6 wins. A 1-point loss to Frostburg, and then a 7-point loss to Duquesne. So Mercyhurt has not had a bad year, I would say, in their first year in Division I. They've been competitive. They've been more competitive than I think a lot of people gave them credit for. And to your point, this was a good win to get on senior day, a nice feel-good win, get your offense going, really light up the scoreboard. I think they outgained them 501 to like 214 total yards.
So just a little. Gotcha.
Just a little. But this is Lincoln, California. There's a reason why this score was 66-0. This is an 0-7 or 0-8 football team, and this particular program has been one of the worst football programs in all of Division I football.
Way to pull back on that.
I was trying to find a nice way to say it. I couldn't find a nice way to say it.
Listen, you're not being rude. It's just factual, okay? It's okay.
Like there are some things that you hear about Lincoln University, and I'm going to leave it at that. But all in all,
you can Google that one yourself.
Yeah, all in all, like, you're supposed to win this game. You're supposed to win this game in dominating fashion, and they did what they're supposed to do. So hats off to Mercyhurt.
Yeah, and Isaac, we knew there was going to be some growing pains with Mercyhurt jumping to D1. It's hard to build a roster when you can't go for a bowl game for 4 years and things like that. But they've been competitive. What does it look like so far to you in terms of their transition to D1?
I think they've got one side right and the other is still a work in progress. I think the offense all season long has been just fine. I mean, you look at the season Cam Barmore's having, he's got 11 touchdowns on the year. He's almost, you can make the argument if he has a breakout game at the end of the year and goes for a bunch, he could get to 1,000 yards. I think Adam Urania has been a real savior for the team. And even though he's a small in stature quarterback and maybe sometimes makes the wrong throw, I think he's been huge for the way that this offense has been able to mature. And I think in future years, you're going to have to do that more consistently if you're Mercyhurt, if you want to win games. But again, I think there's an understanding that it's growing pains this season. I think the defense still is a work in progress to adjusting to the D1 level. But there are a lot of bright spots for Ryan Remedio, and I think that's really the one thing you wanted this year was how many bright spots can we find? Do we have enough that we believe in future years we can be competitive? And I think at this point they probably have found that and have some belief with 3 wins and even some competitive games earlier in the year that they could have won, probably should have won, that they have a good chance in years to come to be able to be competitive.
Yeah, and there's a former name that I want to give a shout out. A former name, a name that we've talked about a lot in recent years with Ethan Knox. Formerly the D10 rush, or still the D10 rushing champion. Although, my guy Vinny Feliciano may have something to say about that in a couple years. We'll track that. However, Ethan Knox comes up big in this game, scores his first collegiate touchdown, but he gains 76 yards on 7 attempts. I mean, and obviously, you still have Brian Trobel as the starting running back. He's giving that, he got 12 carries at 4.8 a carry as well. But Ethan Knox, this might be a turning game for him in terms of, standing out and trying to push for that lead role. That'll be curious to kind of see too. Doesn't look like he lost a step moving up to the collegiate level. So, anything else on Mercyhurt?
Way to do your job.
Listen,
way to do your job. You won this game in dominating fashion. You were supposed to win this game in dominating fashion, and way to send your seniors out on a nice senior day win.
Yeah, and you know what? And they're still seeking that first division win. They'll try next on November 23rd. They have a game against St. Francis back at Saxon Stadium. So we'll hope for the best. Now, speaking of doing what you're supposed to do, we talk about in the PSAC, if you need a get-right game, right now it's against Clarion. Sorry, Clarion. And Gannon
can I stop you, Nick?
Go for
I
it.
would not go that far this year.
They've looked pretty good at times.
Clarion is a much better team than their record suggests.
Okay. All right. Well, let me set it up, and then I'll throw it to you, and we'll maybe unpack that a little bit, because we obviously know that Jonathan's going to prop up Gannon here. But Gannon University's defense delivered a decisive fourth quarter stop, sealing the 34-28 victory over Clarion on Saturday. Quarterback Jaden Whitaker led the Golden Knights with a career-best performance, accounting for 4 touchdowns, 408 yards of total offense, and Gannon improved to 3-6 overall and 3-3 in PSAC West play. Isaac, to your point, they won the game, and I'm beating up on Clarion a little bit, but it took a fourth quarter stop for them to seal the victory against this Clarion team. So what are you seeing coming out of this?
Yeah, I mean, I was there. I think it's so frustrating for me as someone who's called Gannon games, because they know what they need to do to win the game. They just have not been able to do it. There are 3 components to me for Gannon to be able to win games, and all on offense. Number 1, Jaden Whitaker has to run things splendidly, and he did that. Again, 2 more touchdowns. He only had 9 incompletions. That was huge. They finally ran the football. 126 yards on the ground. Jaden Birch had a decent day. Jerome Lee comes in and plays well. Jaden ran the ball for 58 yards, I think, minus the sacks. That was incredible. And for Gannon to be able to score on the ground was huge as well. And then I look at it, and I'm like, the last 3 games, Tank Mason, after the first game against Northwood, had done absolutely nothing. They couldn't get him the ball. They couldn't get him open. And now finally they're starting to get him open. We saw him with another touchdown, a $121 through the air and 7 catches on Saturday. And I think for Gannon's defense, they bent, but they didn't break. That was the other thing too. Gannon coming into this game had been outscored 106-20 in the second quarter. And it was really interesting to see up 14-0 in the second if they could keep the lead or stay tied going into half. When it was 14-14 heading into the break, I felt really good. I say Clarion's not a pushover because of their offense. They've got former Mercyhurt standout Trayvon Tate, Ray Jackson, a former McDowell High School grad, Kalon Simmons, a former Meadville grad, Griffin Bazell, who's their best tackler at middle linebacker for Meadville, is great. And Anthony Gercio as a quarterback, that dude can sling it. He is one of the best, if not the best, quarterback in the PSAC West. So it's a big win for Gannon. It's a big defensive stop late. And I think if you're Eric Rayburn, you're looking at this and you're thinking, if we would have just been able to figure this out 5 games ago, we could compete. They've got 3 wins in conference play. They're 500 in conference play, and you wonder if they could have just figured it out a little earlier, what this season might have been if it had been different.
Yeah, and I mean, I think to your point too, if they get hot at the right minute, if those PSAC playoffs are in range for them. I mean, if they can keep that offense can't talk here on my birthday, offense side of the ball moving. I think for me, the key performance in this game was Jaden Whitaker. I mean, obviously it was his career high best, 27 completions on 36 attempts, 366 yards and 2 touchdowns. Oh, and he ran for 42 and 2 touchdowns. He had 408 yards of total offense by himself. Jonathan, we only got about 60 seconds left, but I think this is the type of game you hope to see out of your redshirt freshman at this point in the season.
Yeah, definitely. It's a clean football game. You don't turn the ball over. You don't throw a lot of incompletions. Like Isaac said, he only had 9 incompletions on the day. It was the type of game that he controlled. 58 rushing yards minus the sacks. It was a Jaden Whitaker day.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what you need, especially out of your starting quarterback and out of the guy that was kind of supposed to be the spark for your offense all year anyways. Sometimes you just need him to have one of those days where he's just on. Yep. It helps when you have your target like Tank Mason that is kind of your security blanket of sorts. And anytime you need a play, you can kind of go to him, and he has been reliable to make those plays. Yeah. It also helps when you have 2 other receivers go for 80-plus yards. You have Braden Soboleski going 7 catches for 87, Mike Watkins going 6 for 83. So those performances help offensively, and they help your quarterback have a good day.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be curious to see what the PSAC West looks like. There really isn't a team that's dominating. I mean, Slip has been playing well, but they've been playing some close games. IUP is kind of in the same boat. I don't know that there is really a runaway team here out of the PSAC West, so it'll be curious to see as they move forward. Gannon up next, Lock Haven. That's Saturday, November 16th at McConnell Family Stadium here in Erie. It's Senior Day, honoring 22 seniors before kickoff at noon. Should be a fun game for them to see. And this is cool, too. Gannon's 492 yards of total offense marked its highest offensive output since September 24th, 2022 against who? Were you there? Clarion. 629 yards versus Clarion. Before we take our next break, I want to take a second and thank all of our sponsors: Quick Fill, Duskus Funeral Home, Dauber Auto Supply, John's Wildwood Pizza, Denny's Sales and Service. Without them, we wouldn't be here for you. When we get back, we're talking Steelers in the Rust Belt Rundown. Got some storylines to cover there. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quick Fill.
For breaking news and informative talk, talkerie.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quick Fill. Celebrating some sports talk here this morning. We talked about it at the top of the hour, but we'll talk about it here as well. Happy Veterans Day to all, to those that have served, who gives us the freedom to be able to talk about sports. Right? We talked about this guy earlier in the show, Coach Wayne Bradford from General McLane. He's tuning in on the show as well. Coach tweets us out, Happy Veterans Day, and thank you to all those who served. We echo that as well. Coach Bradford. Thanks for checking in online. Speaking of checking in online, if you want to follow along, you can obviously listen on 105.9 FM here on Talk Erie, or you can hop online, head over to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. We're live there. Send in your comments. Send in your discussions. Also, you can give us a call on the show. If you want to be on the air, give us a call, 814-679-1080, 679-1080. We are talking Steelers and talking Bills, so if you want to get your thoughts in, come let us know why we're wrong. All right, let's start with Steelers versus Commanders. Okay, so I'm going to lead this one off. Russell Wilson connected with Mike Williams for a 32-yard touchdown pass with 2:22 left in the game, securing Pittsburgh Steelers' fourth consecutive victory, 28-27 over the Commanders on Sunday. Here is Mike Tomlin in his post-game presser. Mike Tomlin talking about how he's not going to live in his fears. And I think that was indicative of you had two huge special teams. I was going to say snafus. They'll call them plays. Happen in this game. And it started with maybe Tomlin's aggressiveness here. You know, it's in the first quarter. The gunner is left wide open on a punt. So they call what seems to be kind of a quick hot route to go ahead and call a fake punt with Washington or at Pittsburgh's 15. It was a great play call. It just didn't come to fruition. They weren't able to complete the pass, and obviously they turned the ball over. So it looks like Pittsburgh's dead in the water at that point. All momentum goes to Washington. I know it was in the first quarter, but it's a play like that in a game like this that can really call a game. So then, shortly after that, Washington's Olamide Zaccheaus muffed a punt in the second quarter, recovered by Pittsburgh's Ben Skoranek, and that sets up a Steelers touchdown. And then that goes on back and forth, tight game the rest of the way. Fourth quarter heroics, Russell Wilson's hard count on 4th and 1 draws the offsides. Rookie Johnny Newton comes across the line, allowing Pittsburgh to run out the clock. So this is, I think, a great game for Russell Wilson. But Isaac, was it enough for you to finally concede Russell Wilson should be the starting quarterback for the rest of the year?
You know, I have to be consistent, right? I have to be honest with myself. I think I'm just about there. I really do. And a couple of reasons for it. You know, there aren't many football moments that make me go, okay, whoa. That touchdown pass that Wilson threw to Mike Williams in the fourth quarter with 7 guys bearing down on his neck. It's 3rd and 9. If you don't convert that with 2 minutes to go, you're probably not going to win the game. That was as bad a perfect of a throw as you could possibly imagine. And I think it shows the veteran leadership that he has. The other thing that I think was incredible from Russ in this game, and Nick, to your point, you talk about that fake punt. Mike Tomlin doesn't call that last year with Kenny Pickett at quarterback.
No way.
because there's not a trust in there that they can come back in games. I said all year, the one thing I liked about Justin Fields way more than Russ is I thought Justin had the skill set to come back in games and Russ didn't. And Wilson proved me wrong yesterday. Down 10, it looks like they're dead and buried. The offense hadn't been playing well. Russ didn't have a perfect game. He was only a 50% completion percentage. But I think it's hard to ignore the fact that they're unlocking different receivers, right? Mike Williams, the touchdown. George Pickens is making big catches. Najee Harris all of a sudden came alive again. I think Jaylen Warren had a really spectacular game. And in a game where the defense didn't even play well, and to my knowledge, didn't really make any big impact plays in the game, Russ leads the comeback. And so I still want to see it one more time. I want to see it this week against Baltimore, and then I'll be fully there. But if we're talking about 100% scale, I'm about at 92 or 93. He looked really good yesterday when it mattered most, and I think the rest of the offense is benefiting because of it. And I think Mike Tomlin as a coach can do more things because of it.
No, I agree 110%, right? And I mean, now you're looking at a Steelers team that's 7-2 in the season. They were, a lot of projections, a lot of people had them at their ceiling at 9 wins. Looks like they can get that maybe before Thanksgiving. You have the Ravens coming up, but then you have the Browns, Bengals, Browns before you come back against a pretty tough last 4 games. So, Jonathan, when you look at this, like I said, Steelers are 7-2 in the season. Tomlin is 14-4 coming off of a bye week and now 26-6 against a rookie quarterback. How crucial is Russell Wilson's performance in finishing the season strong or maybe even atop the AFC North?
It's very crucial, and I'm kind of on the same page with Isaac. It's like I've been waiting. I said it on the pod the other night. I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop with Russ, and I've been waiting for it. And I'm like anxiously awaiting.
And this is the game you thought, oh, this is gonna hit it,
man. And I was anxiously awaiting the day where I could point at everybody and I was like, "There, see, I told you it shouldn't be him." He keeps winning. He keeps winning,
and it may not have been his best game, like Isaac was talking about. He was only 50% passing, but he didn't make any terrible mistakes, right? And I'm with Isaac. I was a Fields truther at the beginning of the year too, because I'm thinking when he's got 7 guys breathing down his neck, it's over. Just fall down, right? But he throws that, a lot of people calling it a moon ball. Paul Adamzak on the show has talked about it before. That's what you want to see out of Russell Wilson, and that's why you go out and get a guy like Mike Williams. Like that exact throw is 100% why you traded for Mike Williams. You take the pressure off of George Pickens, but Williams is not a slot guy. We have a couple of those with Cal. I can't believe I said we. I'm like adamant against saying we as part of a non-football team player. But anyway, you have Van Jefferson and Calvin Austin being able to run the slot. And I think now Mike Williams gives you that outside big body presence that you can throw it up into the end zone. I mean, when you get into the red zone, Russell Wilson has Mike Williams, George Pickens, Freiermuth, and oh my gosh, the big tight end.
Washington.
Yeah, Darnell Washington in the end zone. It's like pick your poison into the end zone, and I think you got a pretty good chance.
And that's not even the best throw he made. Like
no,
that was an amazing throw.
Yeah.
But I think the first touchdown to Pickens, I don't know if it's the catch from Pickens that makes me feel like that's just a great throw. But like he didn't play Russell Wilson. I'm talking about didn't play an amazing game, but he made some amazing throws in that game. And it's just like it's one of those things where you look at him and it's like. You can't tell me he's not the starting quarterback for the rest of the season at this point, in my opinion.
No, I agree 100%. And on that play, too, I read that Russ essentially called that play. He went to Mike Williams and said, Mike, run this route. I'm going to put it right in your hands. And he did. He called his shot like Babe Ruth and threw the touchdown. And you could hear the air come out of the stadium at that point, too. So, Isaac, with this win, the Steelers remain atop the AFC North. Are they legitimate contenders for a deep playoff run now?
We're going to find out next week. Because that's the team that you have to beat. I mean, I would still think the Ravens are division favorites at this point, even though Pittsburgh's atop. I just think
they lost to Cleveland.
I get it. Everyone's got a clunker. Hey, how good does that Steeler loss to Indianapolis look now?
That's fair.
Look too great, does it?
That's fair.
I just think that when you look at this team, I think a deep playoff run is going to be contingent on if they win the division. I do not think they can go on the road and beat a Houston or a Buffalo or a Kansas City or a Baltimore, even with Russ at quarterback. I think you're going to have to win this week. It's huge. The division games are going to be a big test. But for Pittsburgh now, the question is can you win games gritty as you're tending to do? Your offense has been great now. Your defense the last few weeks has gone from 3rd overall to 10th overall in the league. So I think they have to figure out how they can be more consistent. Can Russ play well in division? Next week is going to tell me almost everything I need to know about this team in the back half.
No, I agree. I mean, and the defense looked great, like you said. Cam Hayward had 2 sacks, 6 quarterback hits, forced a turnover on downs with tackles by Minkah Fitzpatrick. KZ has been looking great as well. So, I mean, they're just moving the ball over and over and over again, and they can win on both sides of the ball. This was a game that I wanted to see from Pittsburgh. I get it. I get the fact that the Commanders are playing a rookie quarterback, first-year head coach for the Commanders. So he's got some experience as a head coach. But the Commanders were flying high this year. They were potentially 8-2 had they won this game, and on top of the NFC, battling it out against the Eagles. So I love what I saw from this game. They got down. They were able to claw their way back. And this is, I think, what they're going to need to do. To your point, coming into the Ravens game next week, I think Russell Wilson is going to have a great game. I think you have he's kind of unlocked George Pickens in a way. Pickens has always been a great receiver, but now he's able to, make those plays that Pickens is just going to go up and catch. That touchdown catch by Pickens, I was like, there's no way you caught that ball. It was incredible. But then, Pickens goes and drops one that hits him right in the hands as well, too. So there's still some things to work out there.
Pickens is an enigma, man.
Yeah.
Like, tackling guys, random jumps when he gets the ball. Like he just looks like he's out there hitting every button on the controller. controller at any point in time.
Yeah,
And
he hits
it's
that aggressive catch button every time.
every time. And it's either going to lead to something spectacular or something that's going to be a meme later on.
Right. So if we look at their remaining schedule, versus Ravens, that's going to be a great game. At Browns, should be a win. At Bengals, that's going to be an offensive shootout. I mean, that's going to come down to the Steelers' defense versus the Bengals' offense, because the Bengals' defense is at times non-existent. But if the Steelers can slow down Burrow, you're maybe you're 2 of your next 3 if you can't beat the Ravens. Then you're back at home against the Browns. If you can take 2 of those 4, and I think they can take 3, I do think it's a tough game versus the Ravens. It's a division game. Sorry, there's horns honking outside of the State Street Studios. I think that sets yourself up for a good momentum run here at the end, where you got to go at Eagles, at Ravens, Chiefs on Christmas, and then versus the Bengals. I do think if they can play like this, I do think the Steelers have a chance to make a long playoff run. If Russ is maybe not playing great football, but I think he's playing his best football that he has since he left the Seahawks. He's comfortable. He's setting his feet. He's playing smart. And I think this is a recipe for a deep run by the Steelers. All right. We got to take a break. When we get back, we're going to talk about the Bills. I'm concerned for Buffalo coming out of this last game. We're going to get into that here in a little bit. If you want to talk the Bills with us, give us a call, 814-679-1080. 814-679-1080. Do the Bills have what it takes to make a deep playoff run? I don't know. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quick
For
Fill.
nearly 40 years, the Edinburgh Community Denny's Sales and Service Center can fix that.
Welcome back. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quick Fill. I can't believe I said we. Like, I'm adamantly against fans that say we for their favorite team. Because, like, what did you do? We won the Super Bowl. No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
And
you ordered some hot wings.
You cheered passionately.
I don't know where you guys are on that, but I'm ashamed of myself. I don't know what 38 has done to me, but I want to go back.
How dare thee on his birthday make such a shrewd remark?
I told these guys at the break, I didn't get as much sleep as I wanted last night, because again, getting older, so Pound of Celsius, not a sponsor, before the show. And my brain is moving so much faster than my lips and body can. So we'll see if we can slug through this Bills-Colts game so that I can go home and, do what an old person does and take a nap.
What's the over-under on how many times we're going to hear Nick call himself old this year?
Over the next 365 days, we probably have 2 shows a week, so you're looking at about 100, at least 100. Yeah.
Yeah, like 300.
I can still do quick math for an old guy. All right, anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about another old guy. Let's talk about Bills versus Colts in the Rust Belt Rundown. I'm still younger than Joe Flacco, by the way. The Buffalo Bills secured their 5th consecutive win, defeating the Indianapolis Colts 30-20 at Lucas Oil Stadium. The Bills' defense led the charge, forcing 4 turnovers from Colts quarterback Joe Flacco. When you look at this game, you look at the box score, you're going, okay, this was a pretty good game from Buffalo. They win by 10. The defense stood up like I talked about. Allen was 23 of 37 for 280. He had 2 interceptions, which is a little worrisome against a bad Colts defense. But he had 8 carries for 50 yards and a touchdown. This is a cool stat, too. With his 57th career rushing touchdown, he tied O.J. Simpson for the 2nd most in franchise history. I don't know about you, but I think they're going to give Allen the ball 1,000 times so that he is not tied to O.J. Simpson for the rest of his career. But Teron Johnson has a pick-6 interception return for 23 yards. He's the first Bills player to record a sack and an interception return TD in the same game since last year. Defensive highlights like we were talking about, 4 sacks by Greg Rousseau, AJ Epinesa, Quentin Jefferson each. So we talked about on the Thursday show how the Bills defense needed to step up. Mm-hmm. And they did that, as you would expect them to do against a Joe Flacco-led Colts team. Flacco was 26 of 35, 272. He did throw 2 touchdowns, but he threw 3 interceptions. And I think overall the turnovers are what killed them in this game. And honestly, I don't know that I have much positive to say for Buffalo, outside of the fact that their defense did play well. Jonathan Taylor he rushed 21 carries for 114 yards. Now, he had over 100 by the end of the first half, but I think what this game did for me, and I'll stop honking and I'll pass it to you, Isaac, is I think this game revealed a recipe for success against the Bills. And that's run the ball. Run the ball, run the ball. And if you can establish the run and it opens up the pass a little bit, Flacco still threw for 272 and 2. Yes, did he turn the ball over? But if he, spare 1 or 2 of those turnovers, and I think we're having a very different conversation here this morning. How say you?
Yeah, I think this is a game where if you're Buffalo, you miss Matt Milano a lot, because he plugged a lot of the run holes that you currently have in your defense. And as good as Terrell Bernard or even Dorian Williams has been in relief, I don't think they're as capable of being able to stop that as they have been. I will say this about the offense. This was about the point in the season last year where they started to get away and stray away from what made them successful at the beginning of the season, right? They went from 6-2 to 6-6. They really couldn't find success. They were very Josh Allen dependent. And I think to an extent that was the case again yesterday. Now, I'm not going to chalk one game up to saying this is what's going to happen the rest of the season. They still put up 30 points in a 10-point win. But I think when you look at the Bills, the thing that was the most concerning to me at the end of last year was the inability to score in the red zone. They struggled in the game yesterday. And then Josh Allen becoming too gung-ho, gunslinger mentality and trying to win everything on his own. And I think we saw that materialize yesterday. So I don't know if there's a recipe to beat the Bills for opponents. I think the Bills have found the formula to beat themselves. And if it was someone other than the Colts yesterday, they probably would have lost the game. But I do think the defense is getting better. And I don't think it's a bad thing that the defense had to win them a game because they had been struggling at times. Now, all of a sudden, that secondary looks really good.
Well, and to your point, they're missing Keon Coleman. They're missing Amari Cooper. Dalton Kincaid went down for a while in this game. So you're missing your top 3 pass catchers, and you're still able to put up 30 points. Okay, that's a pretty good look. The Bills scored 30-plus points in four consecutive games for the first time since 2004 as well. So, even with maybe, Allen not playing his best game in the passing game, they're still able to put up 30, and I think they're going to need that, if they want to make their own deep playoff run. Jonathan, what's your thought, state of the Bills right now?
Yeah, they put up 30 points, but when you force 4 turnovers defensively and you catch 3 picks and you force a fumble towards the end of the game, that puts you in some pretty good offensive spots and some pretty good field position spots to be able to drive down the field. And to Isaac's point, they were in the red zone a lot. Yeah, they scored 30 points. They could have put up 50. They really could have touched 50 with all of the times that they were in the red zone and had to settle for field goals instead of getting into the end zone. It was just really, it wasn't a good performance for me from Josh Allen. Like, watching him and watching some of the reads, like I'm watching back some of the interceptions that he threw, and I had the one in my head where he threw it on the hitch route where he's rolling out and he just and it's like that's the only read, that's the only throw that he's making. It's a timing anticipation type of throw, and he just thinks it's going to be there, and Kenny Moore is all over it, but he throws it anyway. It just didn't feel like a clean game from Buffalo. And to you guys' credit, it felt like the Colts weren't doing anything crazy. The Colts weren't doing anything great to say in this game. It just felt like Josh Allen was making mistakes, and Buffalo was kind of shooting themselves in the foot in ways that kept this game a lot closer than it wound up appearing on the scoreboard at the end. Like, yeah, 30 points is a great performance with Josh Allen not playing his best game, but you're not going to be able to play football that way down the stretch and expect to beat some of these top teams in the AFC.
Yeah, and I think for the defense, they needed that turnaround game, and Joe Flacco was a great turnaround game for them. I think that defense is going to have to play this level of defense the rest of the way. And, I mean, forget about the rest of the way. They have a tough end-of-season schedule as well. Well, I should say the next 4 games are kind of tough, and then their last 3 are cakewalks. But sorry, Patriots fans. Let me ask you this, Isaac. How can the Bills maintain this offense when they face off against the Chiefs next week?
I think they're going to have to come out and be okay with getting 3 to 4 yards of play. That, to me, is the one thing that if you're Josh Allen, have you matured enough yet, which I think he has, to be okay to take what the defense gives you. We saw Denver do that really well yesterday, right? Nothing flashy outside of the touchdown pass to Cortland Sutton. They got 3-4 yards a carry. Bo Nix runs for maybe 2 or 3 yards here. It's a quick hitter there. I think if Josh Allen is comfortable with being okay with 3 to 5 yard checkdowns, James Cook will be a big factor in the game to me in the pass catching department, and you're okay with going on 15-play drives, I think they can score 28 to 34 points. It becomes the problem when Kansas City baits you into, all right, Josh, throw the ball down the field because we're giving you plenty of time. Okay, Josh, you're down 7. Do you feel like you have to make a play? If Buffalo is okay being conservative and content and just playing for the 4 to 5 yard gain, they're going to win Sunday. If they don't and start to issue and try to force the ball down the field, Kansas City's defense is too good. So to me, the consistency factor has to be 12 to 15 play drives and get out of town with 3 or 4 offensive touchdowns.
And the Chiefs are typically, I mean, when you think of the Chiefs, you think of what?
Pat Mahomes,
right? Andy Reid. The Chiefs, their identity this year has not been on offense, right? They have a top 5 defense. Steve Spagnuolo is drawing up incredible games. They on average, hold opponents to under 300 yards a game, and they've only allowed 16 touchdowns here through week 10, right? So that, when I think of, okay, Chiefs versus Bills, that's concerning to me for Buffalo, because that means you're looking for a quarterback to step up and win this game. And Allen can play tight. He can play really well under pressure, and he's done that all year. But I think I got to put my money on the Chiefs next week. I don't know. Save that for the preview game on Thursday. Good stuff, any way you look at it, happening in the Rust Belt when Cleveland's not playing. All right, Erie, thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Nick Artman. I'm signing off for Isaac Petcash, Jonathan Williams, and Rich Smith. Happy Veterans Day, everybody. I'm going to go take my birthday nap. That's it. We're done.